Hello and welcome to Daily Mirror Online. This is On Fire. I'm Easwaran Rutnam. Come November, Maldives President Mohamed Soli will be completing 2 years since assuming duties following an election where the Maldivians voted for change. Questions, however, are being raised on President Soli's achievements, his dealings with certain countries, and the manner in which his government managed the coronavirus situation. Joining us to discuss the situation in the Maldives via Zoom is former Maldives Foreign Minister Dunya Moumoon. Dunya Moumoon, welcome to the show. You were one of those many who supported Mohamed Soli's election as president, but today you are also openly raising some critical questions about his performance so far. In one of your most recent tweets, you said, "The people of this country voted for the current government with high hopes for justice, truth, and equality. Justice for those disappeared and murdered. Justice for those who have been discriminated against. But what has really changed? Has the government lived up to those hopes?" Unquote. My question to you is, hasn't President Soli ensured freedom of expression, established democracy, and put a full stop to dictatorial rule in the Maldives?
First of all, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you, Mr. Easwaran, on this program. For Maldives, yes, democracy is a process. It's very much not a one-off event, and it's a wish of our people really to consolidate and to strengthen our democracy. I did support President Soli, as did many others, in the hope of a meaningful change, and because of his promise to return to the rule of law. His promise to reform the justice system, and especially the judiciary, and his promise for equality before the law. Nearly 2 years since the election, I think me as well as many others in the country are disappointed because we have not seen this return to the rule of law that we had expected. Impartiality and independence of the judiciary, as you would know, is the cornerstone for any democracy. And in this regard, we continue to be concerned, as we were during the time of President Yamin, that institutions in the justice system, such as the courts, the Prosecutor General, the Judicial Services Commission, are still not really impartial or independent, and the confidence in these institutions remains low. The reforms that were promised at the election time have been nothing less than a pipe dream. So I think, yes, many are disappointed and many are critical of what have we really achieved with the change and by bringing in this current government.
And Human Rights Watch recently said that the Maldives president, who campaigned on a promise to abolish laws curtailing free speech and assembly, is now resorting to the previous government's old tricks to prevent protests. Is this true?
I would say democracy is something that you desire, not just when you're in opposition, but especially when you're in government. It is something that you should uphold. And too often, in too many countries, including in ours, the promises are there when you're in opposition, but the reality is different once you come to government. And this government also has been alleged to have been flirting with some of the tactics of the previous government. Democratic governments, by definition, should be able to tolerate dissent and diversity of views, and they should be able to withstand these challenges. And what distinguishes a government that actually guarantees democratic rights is one that has the ability to manage these diversity of views and yet function as a society. I would say we are today witnessing some of these challenges once more in terms of the opposition's functioning. But overall, I would say that this government has not performed too badly in terms of freedom of expression and in freedom of association and giving those rights to people, individuals and groups. However, I do see the major challenge to be the actual delivery of services, delivery to the people in terms of the economy, in terms of their aspirations for education, health, for progress in the society. And there, I feel there is a huge deficiency. And again, COVID being the main challenge that all our countries are facing at the moment. And I think the government really has not performed in delivering in this area.
And you were the foreign minister in the government of Abdul Yamin Abdul Gayoom. He has already indicated he will contest for president in 2023. Is he someone the Maldives really needs again to lead the country?
President Yamin is currently serving a jail sentence which disqualifies him from competing in the 2023 elections. The Maldives needs a leader who can lead, someone who can lead by building trust in the institutions and by cultivating the values of democracy and promoting the rule of law, and someone who ensures that there is actual equality before the law. Obviously, I did serve in President Yamin's government, and I believe he did deliver on many areas, including on the economy and infrastructure. But at the same time, there were many areas which I did not personally agree with him, and which he showed, I think, his inability to live with criticism of what he was doing or how he chose to rule. And we saw the use of the judiciary in terms of attacking his opponents and in unfairly sentencing them. So there are, as all leaders, many complex issues related to them, but I believe delivery, he did deliver. And again, in comparison with President Solih, if you could compare, I feel that we are lacking now in actual delivery to the people on their needs. So for the future, who knows what we will see, but we definitely need stronger leadership which will actually deliver on those promises that many of our politicians have been giving to our people so far.
And the Maldives has a history of dictatorial rule, doesn't it? Your father, Moumoon Abdul Gayoom, was also accused of being a dictator at one time. Has politics really ruined the Maldives, preventing it from making better use of its resources?
I would say my father is the one who introduced the reforms that were necessary for Maldives to go on its path towards a modern democracy. And as I mentioned before, democracy is a process. It is a goal that we are working towards, and it's a goal that our people are committed to. I would not characterize the Maldives as having a history of dictatorial rule myself. There is one attribute that is common to dictators, that is they don't uphold democratic verdicts obtained through free and fair elections. As you may recall, when President Moumoon Abdul Gayoom lost the 2008 election to President Nasheed, he called to congratulate him, he held a joint press conference, he provided him with an office and staff to oversee the transition, and I think he very graciously stepped aside to ensure that the verdict of the people was upheld. I believe that my father actually is the leader who, under his guidance and obviously with the work of our people, built modern Maldives, and that would be his legacy. And today we see that during President Gayoom's time, he transformed the Maldives from being a small and impoverished fishing village, if you will, or a country plagued with cholera, into the world's most exotic tourist destination. When he was elected president in 1978, Maldives had a GDP per capita of $140 and a life expectancy of 45 years. When he left office in 2008, we had the highest per capita in South Asia with a $9,600 and a life expectancy in the upper 70s. So I think the facts stand for themselves. There was indeed a lot of achievements. Yet again, there were many criticisms in terms of the need to have a better democracy and reforms. And I think he initiated and started that process. And when he left, the country was actually introduced multi-party politics at that time.
And your brother, Qasim Moumoon, is also supporting Abdul Yamin, if I'm not mistaken. How does this affect your relationship with the family?
I think it is, again, a demonstration of the democracy in the country. I think there is diverse political opinions, including within families and within siblings. And I think our challenge is obviously to accept the diverse opinions and the fact that within our family, we may choose different paths, and to be able to maintain our relationship as a family. And I think that challenge has been a challenge, but I think we have made good progress in that regard.
And let's talk about the foreign policy of the Maldives. The country has in the past aligned itself with China as opposed to its closest neighbor, India. Has that policy helped the country or helped individuals?
I would say President Solih now needs to provide a more compelling explanation as to why the Maldives is following a decisively pro-India foreign policy almost blindly. As a result of this government's policy with India, the Maldives is at risk of being a satellite state of India. President Yamin also pursued a similar policy with China and also was very close to Saudi Arabia. I disagreed profoundly with his vision, and when I could no longer agree with President Yamin's foreign policy decisions and he did not follow my advice, I resigned. And this includes issues such as the death penalty and also the relationship with India and China. There's no reason why the Maldives cannot pursue a foreign policy that manages the country's external dependency while respecting India and India's aspirations in the region and beyond. Over-dependency on just one country, I believe, will make the Maldives more vulnerable, and we will not be able to exert any significant leverage in negotiations, and this will make our country weaker. And my message to India too is that a weaker Maldives is not good for India's security interests in the region. A weaker Maldives will not be able to resist pressures from a third country or offers from such countries that are commercially attractive, but strategically detrimental to maintaining stability and order in our region. Prior to the election, President Ibrahim Saleh also spoke about Maldives' over-dependency on China and also the loan financing, and many people spoke about the debt trap. Immediately after assuming office, though, President Saleh's government took a $800 million loan from India, the terms of which were not made public. What is known to date is, however, that almost all the new infrastructure development projects, including strategically important projects such as the new seaport in Gulifalo, are to be taken by Indian companies. Again, in the COVID situation, we are continuing to see an over-dependency on India, and I have my concerns regarding that. We should be able to maintain a balanced foreign policy, and I think that is one more of the strong legacies of my father's time, that he managed to have friendships with all these countries that supported Maldives without becoming over-dependent on any one country.
And the coronavirus situation is what's really making headlines these days, not just in Sri Lanka and in the Maldives, but in so many other countries as well. Former President and current Speaker Mohammad Nasheed had not supported initial moves to close the country's borders when the coronavirus spread. Was that a costly move?
Yes, I believe so. I think we can see on hindsight, looking at the experience of many countries around the world, that the countries that acted quickly and decisively in terms of closing borders, locking down, did benefit. I would though like to say that we did achieve much success with the initial lockdown and control of the disease and the spread, particularly in the capital, Male, where we had community spread and continue to have community spread. And that is credit to the government and the many people who worked together as a team to maintain the situation. However, when the country started opening up end of June and early July, we were not cautious enough, and we did not take the appropriate steps that were necessary, and we are suffering from it because of that. We opened up very rapidly. Even simple things like wearing a mask only became mandatory very recently. Our figures are alarming. We are over 6,000 at the moment, and we have 25 deaths. And this morning when I woke up, I heard again of yet another death, and my sincere condolences to all the families who have lost their loved ones in this country, and also, of course, in the rest of the world as well. Again, you may have also heard of the corruption allegations to do with the bid on ventilator, which was obviously very much a need for our country, but these ventilators have not even materialized and are believed to have the contracts given to an obscure Dubai company. At the moment, investigations are underway. The audit reports are already showing issues of concern. The health minister is implicated and has stepped aside for the time being. So again, COVID situation, which is very alarming, and we have no health minister in charge, only an acting one. So it's really my call on this government to take this situation very seriously, because it is reaching a point where it's difficult to turn it around and to keep control on the situation.
And the Maldives depends a lot on tourism. Has the coronavirus pandemic come as a wake-up call for the Maldives to not be over-dependent on tourism?
Definitely. The Maldives, as you would know, has very high quality hotels, and our natural beauty makes it very unique, a very unique destination for tourists around the world. And many have visited and want to visit in the future. We are very much over dependent on tourism. Many governments have spoken of the need to diversify our economy, but this has unfortunately not happened. And we should really take this opportunity and use the challenge to try and work out ways where we can really diversify our economy. And I know it's easier said than done. We do have a fisheries industry too, and again, a lot of efforts and resources are going into it. So I hope that we would be able to continue to have a strong fisheries sector. Since we open borders, we are seeing tourists returning, but personally, I don't think that this will continue until we become a safe destination, so tourists are assured of their safety when they come to visit us, and also they're assured of the medical support or health care that they would receive in case of illness. So again, tourism, while that may we may be able to proceed with it because we have obviously separate islands, which in a way makes it easier to control the spread of disease. The plight of people of Male particularly is very much of a concern. It's a very congested city with the rapid spread. Although there are many businesses, shops, restaurants open, people are not that comfortable to be out and about. So it's a delicate balance. I believe we do need to bring in more restrictive steps just for a short term to control the situation once again before we are able to proceed. And again, I want to commend Sri Lanka on how well they had managed the situation. You would know I was there during lockdown, and I do think Sri Lanka has been very cautious. So the leadership and the people really deserve our admiration for how they managed the situation. And the opening up itself, I believe, has been very cautious. And even now, there are many steps in place, including for when you are planning to open up for tourism as well. So I think there's much that we can also learn, that we have to take the right steps. And of course, people make mistakes, but we have to learn from our mistakes and also from what has worked in other countries.
Since you mentioned Sri Lanka and the Maldives have had a very close relationship in the past. How do you see that relationship progressing under the new government in Sri Lanka?
First of all, let me again congratulate the Sri Lankan people for a very peaceful election, and also congratulations to the leadership and the new government that has come in. Maldives and Sri Lanka relationship will thrive whenever the leaderships of the two countries believe that there's much to gain from our collaboration and the mutual respect that we hold with each other. And I think the Sri Lankan government knows that well. The Maldivian government also knows the important relationship that we have. And of course, the geographic proximity makes it even more important. I believe that the present relationship can be further strengthened, that because our countries enjoy much people-to-people contact. There's Maldivians who are resident in Sri Lanka for education, health purposes. There are a number of Sri Lankans who are in employment in Maldives. We are actually waiting eagerly for when your borders open up, because there is a lot of people who wish to travel for various reasons. At the moment, there is limited travel for health emergencies, and I think some students are returning. So we do hope to see that, and many people are waiting with expectation. The connectivity and trade with Sri Lanka obviously is very important. Maldives tourism is very dependent on the high quality but inexpensive fruit and vegetables that come from Sri Lanka. And Maldives also provides employment, especially high-paying jobs for Sri Lankans, including in our tourism industry. And during my tenure as Foreign Minister, and generally always, Maldives provides the strongest support to Sri Lanka, including at the UN and other international fora. So it's a special relationship, I would say, which has long historical ties. And I do hope that we continue to have that strong friendship. And especially in a time such as now of an international crisis, the global pandemic, I think there's a lot of work that we can do together to support each other. And I do hope that we do especially learn from Sri Lanka's experience in handling this situation. And we look forward to very strong ties.
Dunya, Moumoon, that's all the time we have, unfortunately. Thank you for joining us on this show.
It's a pleasure, and speak to you soon. Thank you.